As always, everyone, welcome to REW Academy. I'm Morgan Carey, the CEO of Real Estate Webmasters. We have Eliana, who is our wonderful host here throughout the presentation. Eliana will be dropping, links to various things that get called out here, as well as always recommend, if you're loving the content, which we know you will, make sure you follow Coach AJ here on his Instagram, give him a 5-star review, all that sort of stuff. So Eliana, I'll drop those as well. And I'll do a quick intro here. So this is AJ Hazzi. For anyone who has not heard AJ speak before, he's one of our coaches here at Real Estate Webmasters Academy. AJ runs an amazing Teamridge in Kelowna, and they do just a wonderful business, and specifically around listings, ISAs, conversion, all that kind of stuff. And so we're excited to have AJ join us today. And AJ is going to be talking about secret ways to get a lot more and an unfair share of listings. So AJ, why don't you go ahead and kick it off? Let us know what you got for us today, my man.
Right on. Well, thanks, Morgan. And I'm simultaneously going live on our Facebook feed here. So kind of juggling here. My eyes will be darting back and forth a little bit. I am super excited to bring you guys this. Normally I speak kind of macro level business, tactically, how to assemble teams, etc. But it is damn near April the 1st, launching into the busiest month in listings. And I know that everybody on this call is feeling the same thing, which is how do we get an unfair advantage over our competitors? Everybody's competing. There's not even enough listings for every agent to have one listing in most markets. And so I thought today it would be apropos to just share some of the stuff, open the kimono again, and just share what we're doing at Vantage West in order to be able to get an unfair advantage and get an unfair amount of listings heading into this market. It's been working really well for the last 4 weeks. We have been cranking out more listings than we've ever done before. And it is thanks to these tactics I'm going to share with you guys today. You're probably thinking, why the heck would you do that? Honestly, most of this stuff, if you do it, you're going to be doing it to people who are already in your database, and you're all, it's really of no consequence to us, even if we share the same market. So I would much prefer to just be totally transparent, share all of the value that we've got. And if you go and make yourself a boatload of cash using our tactics, then I'm super happy about that. So
awesome. Let's do it.
All right. So I'm going to flip this on here and get us into the share screens part of this. And then I'm going to hit present. All right. So 10 ways to get an unfair amount of listings. I hope you guys are okay with this, but I ended up going over 10. I was kind of going through all of the different tactics we've been using. And at first I thought it would be hard to get to 10. It turns out we've got a lot more in our bag of tricks than I had originally thought. So let's get rolling. Number one, and I've taught this before, is the real estate related goals call. I mean, we're heading into Q2. You should have done this already in Q1, but if you haven't, this is the time to get on the horn with your clients and have the conversation about what their real estate related goals are for 2022. This is a huge, huge piece because it opens up the conversation to a number of other things. Now, you can't get to everyone in your database. If you're, like I said, you've got a database of thousands and thousands of people, there is a little pro tip that you can use. You can leave a voicemail using a product called Slide Dial. And this will allow you to do a pre-recorded voicemail. One little thing I will caution you though, don't send them out 1,000 at a time, because a lot of people will call you back as soon as they see the missed call. And so you really want to do it in kind of like 50 bursts of 50 at a time. And so that you can, you can handle the influx of calls back that you're going to get. But the voicemail you leave is just like, hey, it's AJ calling from Vantage West. Just wanted to check in with you and see what your real estate related goals are as we head into the second quarter of 2022. We are in the busiest season for the market. There's a lot of things going on. I want to make sure you've got all the information that you need. Even if you're not thinking of selling, you can use me as a resource, whether you're thinking of refinancing or renovating. I've got contacts that I'd love to connect you with. So yeah, give me a call back and let's go through what your real estate related goals are for the rest of this year. That call will elicit a great response, and you can do that in a very leveraged way using Slide Dial. But I do recommend you call your A+ people and work your way out from there with this call. It's a huge piece of the puzzle. On that call, another thing that I think is a pro tip is ask them, how long do you think, if they have no intention of moving and you're talking to them, say, how long do you think your current home will suit your needs? this is interesting to know because you can actually have a spreadsheet and a little tag in your CRM once you have the answer. Some people will say, oh, when the kids go off to school in a couple of years now, we'll probably look to downsize. Great. So you tag them in the CRM as a 2024 seller. Then what you end up doing once you kind of know everyone's situation, because most people are not going to stay in their home for the next 15 or 20 years. So you kind of want to know everyone's timeline well in advance, and you can bookmark these into the future. You can have a little Excel sheet going and, like I say, a tag in your CRM. And that way, every year at the start of the year, you can look and see who's got that tag or who falls in that row on the Excel sheet. And you know you've got a good chunk of listing business already in the bag. The next piece is, and I've talked about this quite a bit, is the radius search. So whether you use your CRM or the back end, your IDX with your website, whether it's REW or otherwise, you can do that, or you can use Matrix. Like for us, that's our MLS. If you use that, you can actually do like a 1 kilometer radius around their house, and then send it to them so that it sends them a digest monthly with what's been listed and what's been sold. So often we're finding now people get that email and they're like, wow, I didn't realize my house was worth this much. What do you think we could get for my property? And that conversation flows from those drips, and it's fully automated. It's super leveraged. Every one of your clients, as soon as you sell them a house, put them on that radius search, tell them you're going to do that, obviously with permission, but they're going to love that. And of course, they're getting a branded piece of content from you monthly that is the most relevant to them. Everybody wants to know what their house is worth. So get people set up on that radius search, just as put it on your closing checklist. But as you're having those real estate related goals calls, or anytime you're talking to these folks, think to yourself, oh, I better get them all set up. So get their permission. Say, hey, I've got this great new tool. What I can do is actually draw a circle around your house using our MLS feature, and we can automatically send you everything that's listed or sold on a monthly basis. They're definitely going to want that. Get them set up. That puts a fence around your clients. It's a great tool. Next up is the survey text, and our team has been absolutely crushing it with this right now. And it's really simple. You go through your database and you start these text conversations. We like to open with, hey, can I ask a quick favor? Canadians especially love to help and be helpful. So that always elicits almost 100% response. People will typically say, yeah, what's up? And then you follow up with, I'm doing a research project and I'm trying to get the opinion of all my clients. What do you expect to happen in the market this year? Do you think prices will climb? Will they stagnate or drop somewhat? Now, depending on their answer, the conversation will go one of two ways. If they say either stagnate or drop, that is a very good cue that you have a pretty hot lead there. And so we would follow up with something fairly innocuous like, okay, I appreciate your thoughts on that. A number of my clients are feeling the same way. Should we be considering an exit on any of your real estate so that you can maybe time the market? That usually opens a conversation of, yeah, I've been thinking about selling. I just wouldn't know where to go. That's typically where that conversation would go from there. And you say, great, I get that. Well, we've got a few good solutions for you. It's pretty common these days. We should have a quick chat. Is tomorrow at 2 good, or would 4 be better? Right. And you just close to the appointment, get them on the phone, or call them right in that moment. This has been working. Some of our agents that have really gone full ham on this have gotten themselves like 10 or 12 listings in the matter of, it's almost like 1 in 10. We've been finding if you get into 10 of these conversations, there's probably 1 listing out of every 10 of these text conversations that you can do. Probably out of anything we've done right now, this has been the magic bullet. And again, you can just go through your database, particularly people who have owned their home for a couple of years at least, not people you sold their house to them last year or 6 months ago, but get into these conversations with folks you did business with, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, and you'll find there's a ton of gold in them there hills. Now, the listing presentation, I imagine everyone on this call has a great listing presentation. If you don't, make that a priority, because you cannot be competitive, especially not with some of the real hardcore pros that are going after listings right now. Anybody that's really serious about getting listings has a phenomenal listing presentation, but we've added a couple little slides this year that have been really influential. And we found that a lot of the people who will have us over for a listing presentation haven't fully made the decision to sell yet, because they're worried about the timing of it. They don't know if they're leaving money on the table. They don't know if this is really the right time. So we've added a few slides. So we have our timing is everything slide. And so this was taken off the National Association of Realtors, and it asks when is the best time, or it showcases when the best time to sell a house is. So a third of this little window is already gone, but April is numero uno. So if I'm sitting in front of a person, I will say, look, it's my belief that as of 2022, it doesn't get any better than this. I don't think 2023 will be better in terms of conditions for the seller to be selling in. And so if you've picked the right year, look at this. You've actually also timed it where you've picked the right month. So this is validating their decision to sit down with you, and you're showing them that this really is the crescendo of the market for this generation. That's a big deal. And so leaning into that. Now, this won't be the same for every market, but this is a stat that's pretty similar across all of North America, where March, April, and May are the busiest months. Now, you may or may not believe that 2022 is the crescendo. I'm of that belief. Now, the next thing I show them is supply and demand. And this is a graph that shows the months of inventory. And you can see here, and this is particular to our market. You'll want to do your own graph specific to where you are. But you can see that when it climbs up above 6 months of inventory, we get these buyers markets. So for us, we had a bit of a buyers market in 2018 after the last time the government intervened. Now the government is looking to intervene again to try to slow the market down. So what do you think might happen? So you sort of ask those questions, you share that with them. You show them that 6 months is balanced, but it very seldom stays in that balanced market for very long. And so then back in 2020, we saw things spike up again. For everybody on the Facebook Live, I am going to be showing this graph to you. I'll put it in the Facebook here in a minute. In any case, at the start of the pandemic, the months of inventory shot up again to almost 12 months of inventory. That means it's a buyer's market. So now we've swung back down to 2, and we're sort of trading horizontally. But there's all these conversations about interest rate spikes. There's all these conversations about government intervention, et cetera. And there's the whole geopolitical, macroeconomic turmoil that we're seeing with wars, et cetera. So it's not hard to, say that, from here, where it goes likely is it goes up from here and the selling conditions get worse, right? So that's kind of planting that seed of doubt that we need to get at it. This is giving them some motivation, giving them a little bit of an accelerant. And then I often will share a market cycle, picture of a market cycle, where we are in our educated opinion. And, I believe that where we really are, we're already starting to see little signs, and you guys can throw it in the chat if you're seeing it too, that some houses aren't going into multiple offers anymore. Somehow there's a little bit of buyer resistance or buyer fatigue from the market. And so you start to share some of those stories about how you listed a property you thought was a surefire thing, and lo and behold, didn't sell because they were reaching on price. There seems to be some pushback on that price. And so where we are in our educated opinion is sort of kind of the third trimester, or even the start of a bit of a slowdown. We know that after every boom comes a slump. So it's not, you don't have to be a fortune teller to, share the information that after this boom, we are going into a slump. And we know we've been into a boom for some time. And so it's likely that we're kind of nearing the end. The next thing I like to point out, and I use a graph here showing the pricing over time. Now, our market went down about 20% and stayed down for a good period of time. In fact, it was 8 years before things came back up to where we were before. And so when I show that to them on a graph and I say, look, today being what I believe to be the crescendo of the market, it could trade, and it may not be tomorrow, but sometime in the next little while, it's going to come down. There's going to be a softening, and then it's going to trade horizontally for a while. Do you want to be waiting 8 years, 10 years to potentially be able to have the same selling conditions that you have today? And for most people, the answer is a stark no. So this is very motivating for people. It's very influential. And if you see yourself as a consultant and less of a salesperson, these are really good slides to put in your listing presentation, which will get people off the fence. And you're doing them a favor, because I truly believe this stuff with my whole heart. All right, next up, another strategy that you can deploy right away if you haven't already. I've taught this one many, many times. It's the simple 9-word email. It goes out to everybody that registered on your website, every crusty old lead. You take anybody that's active or engaged off of this email, of course, and you send them a very simple one. The subject line is just their first name, has the highest open rate, who knows why. And then the 9-word email, again, is their first name, just a merge code. Are you still planning to move in 2022? It's simplistic, but it seems conversational. It also, a simple question offers a simple answer. So often as realtors, we get into this mindset that we need to write these long, highbrow Shakespearean prose emails. And it's almost intimidating. Some people don't even want to read it if it's more than a couple sentences. And when you get a long email from somebody, you feel like you owe them a long response, and who the heck has time for that? So oftentimes you're response rate goes through the floor as soon as you go past a couple sentences. So I like short, really simple. Brevity is key. This email will spark up a whole bunch of old leads, and most of the people in there, of course, need to get out of their current home before they can move on to their next one. So use the 9-word email if you haven't already, just to put the defibrillators on all the old leads that are sitting in your CRM. You will not regret that investment of 15 minutes. Next up is the unsolicited CMA. Now, for most of you, probably haven't tried this before, but you want to target people in your database that you think are kind of ripe for moving. We know the average person moves every 5 to 7 years. So you go back into your database and you look and you see, who did I sell homes to 5 to 7 years ago? Even 3 years ago, if you don't have enough people in that other block. That's sort of 3 to 10 years, let's say, if you really need to go wide in order to get enough people. And commit to doing a couple of these per week. There's a person on our team that has a huge success rate with this. Not everybody's comfortable doing it, but what we like to do is pre-record a very simple CMA. So most people have a tool within their matrix or their MLS system to do a very brief CMA. So you do that, you grab a few comps. You also typically have like a home price index. So from the day they bought to now, specific to their neighborhood, what has happened in the market. And so you can use the HPI to show them, here's what the market factors say has happened to your property value since when you bought. And you go through it and you record a 90-second video on BombBomb. Or you can use Loom if you prefer that. But I like BombBomb. You can send them a specific video of you touring around on your computer, and you just say, hey, I was just thinking about you. Your property, as you I'm sure are aware, has gone up a ton in value. I wanted to just take a quick minute to show you exactly what your investment's done. And should you have any questions about the market or timing the market, of course, I'm here. And so you send that to them, you get them excited about what their property might be worth, and they're appreciative. The rule of reciprocity is invoked. And lo and behold, this unsolicited CMA turns into a conversation. And the key is it takes a bit of effort, right? And effort is often rewarded. So, we're thinking, I don't want to do that. That's a lot of effort. If you're zeroing in on the people who are most likely to move and who are sitting in wonderful equity positions, this will be great news. And they're really going to appreciate you taking that step for them. So it doesn't come off like you're soliciting. It's really there as a consultative thing. It's there to be like, hey, look at all the equity you've gained since you bought. Great move. You're showering them with praise for making a wonderful investment. And then, of course, you're also prospecting in a really kind of stealth way as well. So this unsolicited CMA is a really, really great tool. Now, if you have a website, whether it's through Real Estate Webmasters, which ours is, or any of the other suppliers, a home value site is really, really key. This is going to give you, a lot of people are really curious about their home value right now. You should have this feature. These leads that are coming through here are great. They need to be followed up with right away, and they need to be followed up with tactfully. But a home value site is something that you're going to want to have as a call to action. Whenever time you do some sort of an email or video, you want to drive people to it. You say, if you're interested to know what your home might sell for in today's market, you can start that process from right here on the email or on the blog, and you drive people back to a home value site after you're giving them valuable content, whether it's an email, whether it's a video. We use this strategy for all of our market updates, have it. And then we've got, a constant supply of leads coming through. Some of them are just curious. That's fine. But 1 in 10 of those, or maybe, 1 in 7 of them are a hot seller lead. And you would be crazy not to follow up with these leads right away. If you're buying these leads through pay-per-click, sometimes you're spending $50 to $100. And so if you can think free guerrilla marketing ways to drive traffic to your home value site, that's gonna be a home run for you. Oh, and I should mention, I know that Morgan, we're testing a couple different ways to also just get home address captures. So there's going to be an email address on the second page, so that people who maybe don't want to share their contact information just yet will enter their address to get to that next stage, to enter more information about their house. And we're going to kind of delay asking them for their info. What that's going to do is it's going to give you a lot of address only leads, which if you're brazen, you can show up on their doorstep with a CMA in hand and saying, hey, I understand you're looking for a home valuation over the net. Well, it's not over the net, but here I am. Here's some information on your house. And now you're into a conversation. They'll appreciate that. We did a blitz doing that last year, and it was a home run for us.
Yeah, just to jump in there, guys. We're going to be posting on the forums. So AJ has been awesome in terms of sharing, his site for testing and traffic and everything. But we're going to be kicking in some budget too. So anyone who wants to contribute to that conversation, so if you have ideas, we'll be doing all the mock-ups on the forums and sharing them, so we can sort of talk about short forms, medium forms, long forms, all that sort of stuff. So if anyone needs an invite to that forum link, then let me know and we can post it in the chat. And then hopefully we can really improve our seller conversations there.
Right on. Thanks, Morgan. All right. Next up is the specific buyer's email. This is a really cool little hack I just learned. And so again, you're asking your database for help. So the subject line would be, I need your help. And then of course the email would go something like this. Hi, first name, use a merge code. Hope this finds you well. I'm doing my best to serve some really nice buyers currently, but I haven't been able to find them anything given the really low inventory. I promised them that I would shake every tree for them. And so let me know if you know anybody considering selling the following. So you're kind of going at it like, I'm hoping you know somebody. And then you list a few buyers that are fairly broad. So I would say, Jeff and Rachel, they're looking for a house in neighborhood, say Glenmore, up to 1.4 million with a garage. That's a pretty wide net, but it sounds specific. I've got this buyer, Mitch. He's a first-time buyer looking for a condo in the south side of Kelowna, up to $500,000. And then I've got Christine, a single mother, looking for a 3-bedroom townhome on the west side, up to $850,000. If this rings any bells for you, please reply or forward this email to anyone you can think of. I appreciate your help. So it's like a help email, but a lot of people will see their home within these 3 buyers. So pick real buyers, make sure you leave the parameters fairly open so that you're not so specific that you hurt your response rate. But this specific buyer's email pulls like a freight train. So drop and deploy that right away. And if you want, you can take a screenshot of this, and I'll be posting the deck in the Facebook group as well. All right. So next up, we talked a little bit about the door knocking with the CMA. Here's another door knocking strategy that works really well if you want to become sort of the mayor of a certain area. So what we would do is door knock on behalf of a buyer, similar to that email. Say, I'm working with a buyer in this neighborhood, and I'm not looking for a listing, or I'm not looking for a listing commission. I am just trying to find somebody who's got a home to sell so I can support these buyers. That's a really kind of low barrier of entry way to start a conversation. And then those folks may or may not know anybody. And then the pro tip is to say, hey, they'll say something like, I've been here for 15 years. I'm not moving. Say, great. Wow. You must know everybody on the block. And they'll say, yeah, I do. Say, great. Well, of all the people on the block, who's the most likely person to sell? And you'll be surprised how often the people will know exactly who on the street is thinking about selling. Then you go down, obviously, and you say, hey, I was chatting with so-and-so, and they mentioned you might be thinking of selling. I'm working with a buyer. The goal of this, though, what you're trying to do is you're offering maybe even a free listing to try to plant your flag in a neighborhood that you want to be in. And what you're going to do is once you get that listing, and even if you have a buyer for it, then great, you'll have a sold sign up right away. But what you're really trying to do is demonstrate to the neighborhood that you're the new agent in town. And what you're going to do is you're going to do a just listed campaign, mail out. You're going to do a pre-MLS open house and invite them all to the home and send them an invitation. You're going to send a just sold when you sell it. And you're going to send a letter with an endorsement from that seller saying that it's been wonderful being your neighbor. We're excited about our next chapter. And by the way, if you ever need a great realtor, I can't recommend AJ Hazzi and his team enough. They did a phenomenal job, right? And so obviously you're writing this letter for them, but it's the nice touch is you're writing them a letter where they get to thank their neighborhood for being great neighbors and wish them well. And so they're obviously going to love that. And you send that out on their behalf. That's 4 or 5 touches plus seeing the sold sign. You will get additional listings from that. And then of course you continue to do the same thing. And next thing you know, you're the mayor of that area. We did this on a street last year in Wilden. And at one point we had 7 listings on one street from doing this. It's a home run. And sometimes if you're waiting to get the listing in the neighborhood you want, the door knocking, offering the free listing is the accelerant to go in there, plant the flag, and demonstrate what you can do. Now, another little pro tip. This one is just a remarketing strategy. So for those that don't know, this is you're putting a cookie on people's browser and you're remarketing a different offer to them. So everybody that comes to your site should be getting a cookie on their browser so that you've got this giant list of people that you can do remarketing to. Now, the remarketing specific to what we're talking about today should be a bottom of the funnel offer for a consultation around their house. So, the 5 ways to maximize the home value, or if you've got a seller's guide or any kind of swipe file that you can offer at that point, or go right for the consultation, the free consultation on how we can stage your home to get you an additional 5%, all these little things that would be catnip to sellers. And that's what you remarket to the people who are coming onto your site as a buyer. Because remember, most sellers will masquerade as buyers online first before they will put their home on the market. So you've got a tremendous opportunity with all this really inexpensive traffic that you're getting on your buyer site to remarket a seller offer to those folks. All right, next one. This is another little very simple email to deploy. You can do it like today. And we know that right now, the reason why most people don't want to sell is they don't want to be caught in this sort of like, where am I going to go catch 22 thing? They want time. And so the one thing we know is because sellers have the balance of power right now, there are a lot of buyers who would be willing to play that game and give them time. So we have what's called a flexible buyer's email. And the subject line might be possible option ? And then again, hey, John, given the current market, I'm currently working with a number of buyers who would consider buying with either an extremely long closing or a quick close and a rent back for up to 2 years. Would that solve any problems for you? For so many buyers or so many sellers, they're sitting on the fence because they don't think they're going to have enough time to make the right move. This is the thing that they need in order to be willing to move. And you do have buyers that are willing to do this. And furthermore, you could, even if you don't, if they're willing to do this, you can then make that a condition of the sale, and you can bring them to market and push your weight around a little bit based on the market that we're in. So this flexible buyer's email that you drop on your database to your past clients, et cetera, is going to be a home run for you as well. Next up, and I'm going to be sharing more on the Seller Advocate soon. I'm going to do an entire webinar around this, but the point being, with Seller Advocate, what you're essentially doing is you're showing up as a consultant with options, okay? And so the 5 options that we're currently running with are buy before you sell, which involves connecting them with a mortgage broker to get bridge financing, and we use our guarantee to back that. Then there's the sell and stay. Many people want to sell their home and stay as a tenant. There are lots of investors. If you don't have, we have an investment fund that we do this with, but if you would probably have an investor that, given the right criteria, would love to have a tenant that previously owned the home that was paying enough rent to make it make sense for him as a cash flow investment. So the sell and stay is a great option. The fix and list, to make this work, you're helping clients maximize the home value before they take it to market, so they can essentially flip their own home. If you have a contractor that's willing to take deferred payment until closing, this will work. Usually some of the bigger outfits will do that. We have our own contracting companies that we do that with, but all you would need to have is an arrangement with a contractor that will defer payment. And you can offer people a fix and list with deferred payments. Very, very attractive to sellers. And then, of course, an instant offer. You can be working with an iBuyer that you have an affiliate arrangement with, or you could be working with an investor, or you can have your own investment fund like we do. But the instant offer is another tool in the tool belt to have. And then, of course, the guaranteed sale, as I mentioned before. And so all of these tools together, when you sit down with them and you ask them questions in a consultative way, this is going to help you differentiate yourself from your competition, as well as land business you wouldn't ordinarily have if you were just a one-trick pony. All right, next up is the Google My Business account. This is a really important piece of the puzzle. A lot of people completely neglect their Google My Business account, and it's a huge miss. So, on ours, we've invested a lot in getting reviews, and now we are obviously the #1 spot when someone searches best realtor in Kelowna or realtors in Kelowna. They're going to see Vantage West Realty at the top because we have the most reviews. And so reviews is how you get yourself on the literal Google map. And what many people are doing now is they are not going to the listings below. They're clicking right off the Google map to the website. This is the path now, the more recent path for clients online. Now, the thing to remember is the only people Googling best realtor are sellers. Okay. Buyers, as we know, which is why we've invested in these IDX pages specific to neighborhoods, they search townhomes in Glenmore or single family homes or houses in Weldon, whatever it is, the neighborhood they're looking at, but it's specific. Sellers search for realtors because they're looking for a particular person or guide to bring them through the process. So why then do we send most people, even people who've done a good job with Google My Business, why do we send them to a buyer facing site? Right? So what you want to understand is that the person doing this is a seller. And so when you click website, it should be a URL that takes them to a seller's page on your site. Or you could configure your homepage a little bit differently, like we have with our REW site, and the homepage has, a home address bar and a couple kind of unique selling propositions specific to a seller, like our instant offer program or our marketing plan or our guaranteed sale, all this kind of things. This is the kind of stuff that a seller who's clicked through a Google My Business ad wants to see. So super important that you fix that line and make sure you get enough reviews that you can at least knock the number 3 person in your market off. So you're at least one of the, consideration set that Google will put up. And it's really just based on the review ratings and the volume of your reviews. All right. Now let's talk about just something that's really, most of us are buying buyer leads right now. And we're thinking, we don't really want more buyers. So what we need to do is we need to reframe some of these conversations, and we need to be asking a very simple question. This is the key. Are you currently in a lease, or do you have a home to sell as well? It's very important that you phrase it like this, because currently in a lease, so anybody with a house doesn't want to be associated as a renter. So they're going to quickly jump into the defense. And a home to sell as well. They might say, I don't need to sell my house, but either way, you now know they have a home to sell. And you say, great, you may not need to. Is it your plan to keep it as a rental, or will that be part of the equation at some point when it's convenient, right? So you ask a good follow-up question, but this question is going to convert a lot of these buyers into a seller conversation. And what we do, and what we've trained our inside sales agents to do, is to try to move the conversation away from buying for the moment over to, the follow-up questions you would ask of a listing lead. And so you're starting with a buyer call, and you're then having a listing conversation with it. And it's really important, because I think far too many people who are doing online lead generation with buyers think with tunnel vision that, this is a buyer and this is a buyer specifically. Well, most of these people have homes. And so, we could just start launching into a conversation with them about, tell me about the home that you're looking for and tell me about your timing, and completely miss the opportunity to have the conversation about their house. And so I know that some of the wily veterans of online lead generation get this stuff, but for many people, you're just getting started in this. It's a very easy thing to overlook, and we find that our sort of newer ISAs tend not to get as much listing opportunity from the buyers because they just don't ask the question. So ask this question: are you currently in a lease, or do you have a home to sell as well? This is a really key question that will generate a ton of listing opportunities from the buyer leads you're already paying for. Next up, Geo Farming. So what does that even mean? That means you're taking a geographical location, you're going to farm it. You're trying to be the mayor of this particular spot. And so a few pro tips on this: you can look on your MLS, through Matrix or whatever, to try to ascertain, maybe you're looking at a set of 500 homes or 1,000 homes, whatever your budget allows for. You want to budget about a couple of dollars a month per home. So if you've got $1,000 a month to spend, you can do about 500 homes. If you've got $2,000, you can do 1,000 homes, right? So it's pretty easy math. And what you want to do is do a couple of little variable tests first to make sure this area is a prime area. So number one, we're looking for turnover of at least 10%. So what you want to see is, if it's 1,000 homes, you'd like to see 100 listings in that group sell per year. Okay. That would be, okay, this area turns over enough. If it's less than that, but it's a high price point, maybe continue. But that's 10% is kind of the target. Average sale price should be 25% higher than your average, right? You should always be looking to try to get your average sale price up, because it's, it's the same amount of work, but obviously better payday. So I always look and see, is the area I'm targeting better than what my current average sales price is? If it is, keep going. And then the next third piece you want to make sure that you're looking at is there an agent in my market that already farms this area and has more than a 20% market share? If there is, that parking spot is taken. There's no point trying to go head to head with somebody who's already done the work and has the relationships and has the mind share in that area. So look for an area. Turnover is better than 10%. It's 25% better than your current average, and 20% or less. Nobody has more than that. Excuse me. And then the next little subtlety is, you want to do so that this is going to be mail outs. You're going to be sending them, pertinent information about recent sales, recent listings. And eventually, as you start to get listings in that area, your just listed, just sold postcards as well. But then what you want to do is you want to be omnipresent. So you add Geo Fencing. And this is something you can do with the Google network, where you can take an area, and for Canadians where we have slightly different privacy laws now, and we've got some, issues with Facebook targeting, Canada Post somehow has a workaround for this. So you can actually target a neighborhood, and through Canada Post, select their geofencing option. They have a digital component to their service now. And so you can target the same folks online as you do that you're mailing. And pretty quick, you will own the mind share of that group, right? And of course, if you start door knocking, doing some of the strategies we talked about before, going in the neighborhood and actually meeting the people, planting your flag in that area, it doesn't take very long for you to become the go-to expert. There's also Facebook groups for specific areas. So you could start a neighborhood Facebook group for those folks and be the facilitator of that type of conversation in there, and very quickly become, like I say, the mayor of that little 1,000 or 500 door pocket. And then as you're doing business and you're making money, you lead with revenue and you scale that outward, right? You grow out from that circle, or pick another neighborhood that you want to be in. All right, next up is market updates. This is something that you guys know I've been doing for a long time. The reason why I keep doing it is because it's very, very effective. I use a company called Viral Marketing for this because they take a lot of the heavy lifting off my plate, but it's an additional expense of about $1,000 a month. So if you want to keep that expense, you can do the stuff yourself. All you really need to do is record a video of you explaining what's going on in the market. And ours is called the Vantage Report. Give it a snappy name. Talk about what's happening in the market. You can talk about the rental market. You can talk about, months of inventory, sales volume, and any of the trends that you're seeing. And then what you want to do is you want to put it out onto either your blog on your website, which most of us have, or you embed it into an email. And in that, the important part of this is the call to action. Okay. So like I was talking about before, you want to have a specific seller facing call to action. Again, this is all about trying to mine for what you want, right? If you're looking for sellers, make sure all of your calls to action are specific to sellers. So you're giving a market report, and then at the end you say, thanks so much for watching, guys. If you're interested to know what your home might sell for in today's market, you can start that process right here with our home valuation tool, right here from the blog, or right here from whatever you're talking about. And you can put it in the comments if you're posting it on YouTube. You want to be omnipresent with this. But the thing that the consistent piece is the call to action is sending them to the home value site. Now with Viral, you'll get a click report. Some other software you can do this as well, but some of the folks may not go all the way through the home valuation site. But if they click that link, it's a pretty good indicator that there's some interest. So what we'll do, or what our ISAs will do, is they will call through the 30 or 40 people who clicked through to the link to see what their home might be worth. Maybe only 3 or 4 of them actually converted, but you've got a whole bunch of people that have indicated based on that click. And so we use this to inform, but also to be very targeted with our follow-up. And we get a ton of listing opportunities specifically from this strategy. All right. I think I've done about 12 campaigns. I've been talking a mile a minute. I have a few bonus campaigns that we have used in the last 30 days to generate 30 million in listings specifically from these campaigns. So first is we did a piece of sponsored content. So for us, it's on Castanet. That is a kind of a neighborhood or a community website where the news and classifieds and everything are. So I think every town would have something similar. And we did a sponsored piece, which is we get to, inform the writing, of course, and work with their writers, obviously, to edit it. And we control the narrative. So the narrative is, if you're looking to sell your home, here are 7 factors to consider before putting it on the market. Well, lo and behold, those 7 factors dovetail really nicely into what we do. So you can do that. And that sponsored content obviously appears editorial. It appears like news, and news is far more influential than advertising. So this is something that we posted about 3 weeks ago, and I've had a hard time keeping up with the demand of people who've called in based on what they read in that news story on Castanet. So if there's a place where you can do sponsored content in your area, highly, highly recommend this. This was $1,000 or $1,200 investment. And I think, the ROI on that is going to be 100 to 1. So that's a great tip for you guys there. Next one is a seller workshop. I don't know if you guys have seen the advertising I've been doing for our seller workshops, but I'm doing these monthly now. And I'm doing them on a piece of software called Webinar Jam, so that they can be recorded, and eventually they'll be evergreen, where I can do them once I've really got one that I think I nailed. I'll just have it as an evergreen piece of content that sits there, and it'll be on what's called EverWebinar, which is the sister program to Webinar Jam. And it's basically me explaining, some of the market stuff that I explained to you before with the graphs and everything, talk about the strategies that are working right now. And it's really about preparing sellers to go to market, explaining how they can improve the property, the top 10 things they can invest their money in to get, to maximize the sale, some of the things that they can do to make things more convenient, like the sell and stay and all the other options we've got. But essentially I go through, this is just a 30-minute class on, if you're thinking about selling, here's what you need to know. And we had 63 registrants on our last one, and about 30 people showed up. And out of those 30, we got I think about 5 or 6 listings from it, and lots of follow-up still. I think there's going to be more to come from that. So huge ROI on the time. So yeah, this is going to be something I do monthly. If you're not doing a seller workshop in your area, I think you're leaving a ton of money on the table. It gives you an opportunity to elevate yourself a little bit, become a thought leader, become the authority in your area as well. So even just the marketing alone is going to make your other marketing more effective. That's that omnipresence that turns the lights on all of your other marketing. That is it, my friends. Let's open it up for questions. I would love to hear from you guys and answer whatever questions you've got in real time. Alex has asked me, what's my spend for your seller lead workshop? Well, it's gonna run me probably $2 to $3 grand a month, depending. I'm trying to fill 50-person workshops because that's the max that I can put on the platform. And so, yeah, I mean, about $20 per registrant is what it's been coming to right now. Any other questions? Go.
Yeah, I have a question on the listing presentation. You said I'm sure you all have really awesome listing presentations. I had put in the chat. We don't. It's on our list because obviously we've been so buyer centric. So for your coaching clients, is that
RW?
Is that listing presentation something you take people through, or something you share with your coaching clients, or?
Yeah. So the question was, is my listing presentation something that we teach? So our specific is very specific to our business. We have a lot of unique selling propositions. But what I do with our coaching clients is I try to figure out what they're doing and help them build their own value proposition. And then of course, build out. That's one of the key pieces. If you don't already have a listing presentation, it's a cornerstone piece that any coaching client I work with will get right out of the bat. James is asking, can you share some key content pieces from your nurture plans on seller leads that are 6 months or more away from selling? Yeah. So, I mean, one of the key, most important things is you got to have them on a customized search. They have to be seeing stuff that's happening all around them. That's number one nurture piece, is they need to be getting relevant sold data from you right off the bat. That's nice. You can automate it. The other things that you want to make sure you're letting people know are what's going on in the market. So for me, these folks are automatically going to get my market updates. The nice thing about doing market updates is they're very universally applicable. So you're going to be able to launch those out, and it's going to feel like a great touch for anybody watching them, buyers or sellers. So that's a big part of it as well. Yeah, right on. Alex is asking, are you keeping the recording in the group? Yes, the recording will be in the group, my friend. You betcha.
Yeah, I'm going to pop the group just for the REW Academy folks. It's a really great group for you guys to join.
Yeah, by all means, we want to bring some more big hitters into the group. You betcha. I want to grab a few more good questions.
All right. Anyone have any additional questions here on how to get more listings? Oh, and Eliana is just posting as a reminder for the REW folks. If you want to reach out to AJ at VW Academy on Instagram is a great way to reach out to him. And of course, obviously find him on Google. We talk about those reviews a lot. If you value this content, feel free to do it for REW too. We like 5-star reviews too, but really, AJ, you're the star of the show here. So we want to make sure you guys find his social profile, which we can help you find, and then make sure you pop in a review for this content as well.
Yeah, thanks, Morgan. I appreciate that. And to the folks on Facebook, I won't do this again where I'm kind of trying to serve 2 masters at once. I feel like it's a little awkward for people on the Facebook Live who aren't hearing the questions. So I apologize for that. I'm learning the platforms as I go. But yeah, no, I appreciate your time. That's it for today's seller webinar. I hope you guys had a ton of value, took lots of notes, and the recording will be on there. For the folks on REW, I so appreciate you guys coming. I know that there's a lot you can be doing at this time of the day, and for coming and checking out the content, I applaud you. Those that are willing to sharpen their saws and those that are willing to invest in themselves are going to be the one. They're going to gain an unfair advantage in this market. If anybody has any questions for me, I'm super accessible. You can DM me through our Instagram at VW Academy, or you can join the Facebook group and send me a direct message through there. And of course, if you've got my cell number, I respond to text pretty fast as well.
Cool. All right, my man. Thank you so much. Have a great time in Arizona, and we will see you next month.
All right. See you guys. Cheers.